All right. Game 3, Mono Blue versus Izzet Control. Mono Blue is on the play this time, so slight advantage here. And let's see the starting hands.
Yes. Good starting hands are, of course, for Thomas always having a threat or two, and a lot of the free spells he's playing, which carry a lot of weight in this matchup, as we have seen in the in the game before. He could save his creature up to 3 times while being still tapped out. Okay.
Right. So, what do you think about the mono blue hand?
I think it's actually playable, despite being the nimble obstruction being a bit slow and back to basics being a dead hand, because the opt can search you another interaction piece. Mental misstep is very strong in this game.
Yes, but I think okay. Thomas keeps this hand. I think it's debatable.
It is, yes.
The obstructionist, as you said, is not very fast, and Thomas really needs to find a threat with opt. He also needs a third land in order to play the obstructionist. So might be a bit of a gamble, but
yeah. Especially since Back to Basic is another dead card. But I think if he finds the third land, the combination of Nimble Obstructionist and Thwart will be very strong.
Yes,
and
agree.
In the meantime, Yannick is, of course, mulliganing 6 lands, 1 ponder. It was a preordain, is not a keepable hand.
No, it's not.
So, yes, it is very interesting to me to see Thomas's list. As we talked, it is a list which, at least in Vienna, we do not have. And he's playing cards like Back to Basics and Winter Orb, which can really punish greedy mana bases.
Yes.
Of course, in this matchup, they're not the strongest. So, Yannick is thinking hard about this one. Or not. This is a one lander which no playable spells, so I guess he will be shipping it. I mean,
I think he has to.
I believe too, because yes, he plays 37 lands, so sometimes you can go the risk, but I think you have a third chance. Yeah, 1 in a third is a land, and if he hits the second land drop, he can actually play a very good game. But
it also has to be a red source.
Oh yeah, so this makes it much harder. You're correct.
Very risky. On the other side, I mean, he's got a lot of interaction, a lot of removal. So one red source alone is can maybe be enough.
Yeah. What I see here in his deck list, he's playing a lot of red. Actually, I'm not used to so many basic mountains. He's playing 9 basic mountains. So he has a bit of a better chance of finding them, but still, it is a very hard decision to make. And he decides to mull it, as you said, Max.
I think that's a fine choice. It would be a very risky, high upside choice to keep the hand. But I think it's fine going down to 5. He needs a red source. He needs the cheap removal spells in order to stop Thomas' early aggression. And I think that's a fine choice.
This brings up the question for me to how risky do you mulligan sometimes, or how risky do you keep? Because in a matchup like this, where he basically has all the cards he needs except for a specific card, in this case like Mountain, you encounter sometimes the thing that, okay, I am okay with dying if I do not find a Mountain in the first 2 turns, because the hand is so good and may lead to victory. I'm more on the defensive side. I do not take choices like this, but where are you on this, Max?
I tend to be more aggressive. And I tend to make choices that are risky. So, but I think I wouldn't have kept the single island hand either.
That would be too risky. Yeah.
Yeah.
This seems like a very playable hand. Yes, this looks like something he can keep. The fiery islet, sure to be a pain for his life, but it is, a lot of, he has playable spells which actually do something. Pteramender can block, Opt can find him something, counter spell is always good in the beginning of the game, especially against a tempo deck, which tries to establish a threat.
Mm.
And Thomas actually has a slow hand, so even the counterspell might carry a lot of weight.
This is true. I think Yannick should ship the negate and either to Entrancing Melody or Counterspell, because the counterspells sometimes are even too slow in those matchups. But since he has got a Pteramander to play on turn 1, I think it's fine to keep the Counterspell and ship the negate, because it's more narrow.
Yeah, especially since he has a threat, I would probably ship the negate and Entrancing Melody, and this is what he does, because he can, even on the draw, he has something to block.
Right.
Oh, nice. A land can be very good. Yes, 3 lands. And he decides to probably play the Opt. Okay. Opt on both sides. Opt, I think, is a very controversial card in Highlander for me and a lot of the people I play, because the effect is very small. Scry 1 in a 100-card deck is not that strong. But on the other hand, especially in tempo decks, you are very hungry for every 1 mana draw a card. So
yes, that's right. And Opt being an instant is also something that is often important, because especially if you keep mana up for counterspell removal or Opt, you broaden your options.
I tend to be on the side playing Opt in tempo decks, but not playing them in control decks, because the search option seems for me too weak for a control deck where you need specific answers fast. But with Opt, you can do very nice things in tempo decks, and especially grow decks, triggering Pyromancers, making Enigma Drakes greater. There's a lot of nice things you can do with the card.
Yes, also the printing of Dreadhorde Arcanist, I think, made Opt and in fact every 1 mana cantrip more playable.
Yeah, it's especially for red decks. Dreadhorde Arcanist is another good card in the likes of Young Pyromancer, where you just want to trigger cheap spells fast. And this gives a kind of redundancy, which is very nice for especially blue-red decks, or sometimes even red-black decks with this card.
Yes, right.
Okay. Yannick is drawing lands and lands, which could be a bit of a problem, because he has not that much to do with all the mana right now. Because I assume he will not play, a Sahili into open mana.
Yeah, that would be very risky. And so, I mean, Yannick does what the control player wants to do, just playing lands, keeping counters up.
Yeah.
So I think he is in a fine position. Thomas will likely play the Nimble Obstructionist. I'm not sure, though.
Yeah, this is a very hard decision, actually, to make, because, you can play the Obstructionist with Fort backup, but you're setting your back 3 land drops, and actually, Yannick has hit every round a land drop and could have 2 counter spells, which could play very nice against the Fort, and then Thomas would be far too slow. But he decides to play, and it will work out probably very well for him.
Yes. And I agree, because the likelihood of Yannick having 2 counter spells is even higher when he has 4 lands on the play, because most counter spells cost 2 mana, and here he would need to have something like Spell Pierce, Force Spike, Daze,
and Thomas has a mental misstep to cover at least Spell Pierce.
Yes.
Okay, this seems like a very good position to be in for Thomas. He has Up Stifle and Gutshot and Mental Misstep. And again, as you said, the free spells do work wonders in these matchups.
They do, yeah. And I think Porcelain Legionnaire is also a fine draw because he can deploy another threat next turn if his obstruction gets handled. So there's a nice backup plan, I think.
Definitely. And he decides to play the Pteramanda, which I think is a very strong card. I do not know which type of decks always prefer it, but I really like it in tempo and control decks.
Yes, I think
especially blue-red, yeah.
Yeah, right. And you can see in Yannick's list, he doesn't play the I would say hardcore control plan.
Yes.
He actually has a lot of spells matters cards that you have Crackling Drake, Cryptic Serpent that gets cheaper with each instant sorcery in your graveyard, Enigma Drake, and Pteramanda also fits into this plan, right? Because it can be a very cheap threat to finish the game, and this is something that control decks often have problems with.
Yes. So Yannick has decided, as we said in the beginning, that he does not play a Blood Moon. This is maybe another reason. He just wants more spells to trigger all his good creatures to become big and strong faster.
Yes, right. This could be a reason.
Okay. This is looking very hard for Yannick right now, because he only has the Saheeli right, and he draws another land.
Yeah, so drawing a land here is very unfortunate because Saheeli is a powerful planeswalker, but you have to have some instant sorceries at least. In this case, it's not even good to play Saheeli on an empty board without any spells.
Yes,
it would just get killed.
Yeah, this seems like a very bad situation for Yannick to be in. I think some cards would be quite nice in this situation, which he has in his deck. He could top deck something like Bone Crusher Giant, which also is very good against many of Thomas's counter spells.
Yes.
But I think he decides to play Saheeli. I think he just needs to do something, at least to force Thomas to do something else than beating down Yannick.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about what you can draw, there are a lot of high mana cost spells, or at least some, like Mystic Confluence, Bribery, even something like Ruination. I mean, if you draw it, I think you just play it in the spot in order to get a token. And by playing Saheeli now, he wants to make sure that if he draws something with high mana cost, that he can get something out of it.
Oh, very nice. He found the original Curiosity, which lets him draw a card. And another thing which you said about Saheeli, she's making tokens. A very important thing in this matchup is those tokens are not flying. They do not have reach. And Thomas's list has a lot of flying evasive creatures, has the Legionnaire, which has first strike. So I do not think Saheeli will help Yannick that much getting out of this situation.
Yes, and we see that Thomas also thinks similarly, that Saheeli making tokens will not do a lot. So he ignores the Planeswalker for now, at least. I mean, Izzet Charm is a fine draw here. And it's a good start.
It's a good start, definitely. Especially since Thomas does not have an counter which does take care of it. Oh, a very nice card just entered Thomas's hand. Godric the
Yes.
Wizened.
Also a very interesting choice. I mean, it's a new card and it fits perfectly into a mono blue deck. It can refill your hand later in the game, and the only thing is that I mean Thomas plays very few lands, so it oftentimes draws you 1 or 2 cards at max, I think.
Yes.
But even this is good enough because then it's a creature, it's a 3/3 beater that replaces itself, and it has another ability that is basically evasion, I think.
Yes.
So I like this choice.
I also think it's, if you want to include a free drop, this is a very good free drop to include, especially now in the situation against Saheli. But I mean, he can just tap all the blockers which Saheli makes and push for damage. But unfortunately, Yannick will not be making any tokens because he is flooding out really hard.
Yes, 2 more islands in hand. There's not much he can do now. Yeah, Treasure Cruise will most likely seal the deal here.
This seems very likely. He's thinking about what to delve. Does he have creatures like Snapcaster? Is it relevant what to
think?
Yes, he has a Snapcaster. And of course, for creatures like Terramanda, it's important to keep a lot of instant and sorceries in your graveyard, which is very easy to do for Thomas because he mostly plays creatures and instant and sorceries.
Yes.
Okay. Very interesting choices. As you said, Thomas is playing a more extreme idea of a tempo list. So he has cards like Jeskai Elder, which I do not think I've ever seen in Highlander. But I can certainly understand why he is including it. And a card which I actually have never seen in play is Ink from... what?
I will have to look at.
I'm looking it up. But it's unblockable. That's what I can at least.
Yes, it's basically a 2/1 beater that cannot be blocked. And regarding the Jeskai Elder, I have played several games against Thomas against this list, and Jeskai Elder really has impressed me.
This is the handshake.
You see, I concede.
It seems very well in his list because it says prowess. It's a 1/2, and he can loot when he hits.
Yes.
So it seems to do everything Thomas wants to do.
Yes, I think so too. Especially the looting part is something you don't have access to a lot in mono blue, and it can get rid of something like Back to Basics in this hand, for example, that is just a dead card.
Yeah,
and prowess can be a really stupid ability. This can.
Yes. That was a fine matchup, and thank you.
All right.